everyone, I'm Giam, from Vietnam. Today, I invite you to join me on a journey to the deep sea off Ca Mau Province, Vietnam. Here, I will spend several days living with the fishermen. They have a unique way of working. They constantly dive to depths of tens of meters, day and night, to use their strength to pull nets used for trapping and catching fish and shrimp. The locals call this the bottom trawling method. In Vietnam, this is considered a very difficult profession, and only the fishermen of Ca Mau Province are skilled in it. After the fishermen had spent hours diving to remove the nets, the remaining fishermen on the boat began pulling them in. They used additional strength from a makeshift pulley to retrieve the nets, which weighed hundreds of kilograms, from the sea. Now, let's wait and see what these fishermen will catch in their first net of the day. Oh my god. The first haul of the fishermen's hard work after hours of diving and pulling in the nets only yielded this tiny result. Will the other hauls bring in more fish and shrimp? Why are there so few small fish? There are a few tiny shrimps trying to move around on the boat. There are too few fish and shrimp here. We will move to another location, further inland, about 20 kilometers away, to find other schools of fish and shrimp. After about 20 minutes of moving to a more favorable location, a fisherman began to choose a spot to dive into the sea to pull in his nets to catch fish and shrimp. Immediately, he quickly jumped into the sea to do his job. Other fishermen also begin their journey by diving to pull in nets and set traps for fish and shrimp in the deep sea. They need to be good swimmers and divers, because the seawater here is tens of meters deep and the currents are quite strong. The fishermen and their small boats are lost in the middle of the sea. Hopefully, this will be a place where the fishermen can harvest plenty of shrimp and fish from their diving and netting efforts. As you can see, this fishing boat is using its strength to move the net into a trap, like a pincer, to capture fish and shrimp. These are the fishermen who have finished their diving duties, tying and untying the nets to create giant trawls. Now, they will return to their boats and begin pulling in the nets. This is also the most nerve-wracking moment, as they don't know if they will catch anything or not. This pulley system will help fishermen pull in their nets faster. While it may look rudimentary, it is highly useful, saving fishermen in Ca Mau a lot of time and effort. This net haul yielded significantly more than the earlier haul of the day. This is good news for those who make their living by trawling at sea. One net after another was pulled up, and the harvest of fish and shrimp increased with each passing moment. This was truly the most suitable place for fishermen to settle down and make a living at sea. This is a huge haul of fish and shrimp. The weight of this haul is approximately 100 kilograms. As you can see, a huge stingray has been caught in the fishermen's nets. While not particularly valuable, this type of fish can still provide a significant source of income for fishermen if they catch a large number of them. A large jellyfish is discarded into the sea because it has no economic value in Vietnam. However, in some other countries, jellyfish processing is done industrially, generating significant income. Many people say that the nets used by these fishermen are too small, only able to catch the smallest fish and shrimp. However, this method is not prohibited in Vietnam. Therefore, these fishermen have maintained this practice for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, the small fish and shrimp harvested by the fishermen have filled a large boat hold. Their weight reaches thousands of kilograms. This is the result of the fishermen's hard work, overcoming difficulties to dive deep into the sea to make their living. Soon, we will travel over 30 kilometers back to the mainland and sell everything we've harvested. After that, we will embark on a nighttime sea voyage, which promises to be very difficult for the fishermen, as diving and pulling nets at night in the freezing sea is often very dangerous. While returning to land, the fishermen took the opportunity to have a meal on the boat. The space was cramped, but everyone was used to this way of life. After more than 3 hours of travel, The boat laden with fish and shrimp returned to shore. The next step will be to unload the fish and shrimp and sell them to customers.
Này đồ đỡ không anh?
Hundreds of kilograms of fish and shrimp will be brought ashore, then quickly sorted and resold to waiting traders. This will be done urgently, so that once completed, the fishermen can return to the open sea, preparing for the challenging night dive. Hundreds of kilograms of fish and shrimp will be brought ashore, then quickly sorted and resold to waiting traders. The women stay at home waiting for fishing boats to return with fish and shrimp. They will be responsible for quickly sorting the fish and shrimp before selling them to traders.is will be done urgently, so that once completed, the fishermen can return to the open sea, preparing for the challenging night dive. These women come from different families. They come to help each other with work and share the income. However, the amount is quite meager, only enough for a bowl of pho in the city. Traders came directly to the area to buy fairly large fish, shrimp, and squid suitable for food processing. The price ranged from a few tens to a few 100,000 Vietnamese dong per kilogram. This is significantly cheaper than the price of fresh seafood in many other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, behind me are women continuing to sort fish and shrimp that are large enough to be sold or used for food. There are many small, very small fish and shrimp that are unusable. They collect them and compost them at high temperatures to decompose them for fertilizer, or compost them at normal temperatures until they partially decompose, becoming a food source for industrially farmed fish, shrimp, and crabs. Overall, people still earn additional income from even the smallest types of fish and shrimp. After sorting and selling the fish and shrimp to traders, the fishermen quickly mend the torn sections of their nets from the recent fishing trip. Then, they pull the intact sections of nets onto their boats and set off for the sea. This is late afternoon, near the end of the day. These fishermen will go out to sea at night and continue setting traps to catch fish and shrimp throughout the night. Thank you for following along until this point in the video. Now, I will take you to another interesting part, accompanying a group of fishermen from Ca Mau, Vietnam, as they sailed dozens of kilometers offshore to dive and trap fish and shrimp. We're traveling in the late afternoon, arriving at the fishermen's workplace around midnight. At that time, you'll see how the fishermen dive deep into the sea, dozens of meters below the surface, setting traps, pulling nets, and casting their nets. I was talking to a fisherman. I asked him if the job at sea was tough, and if he was worried about the upcoming night dive. He laughed and replied that it was very hard work, requiring high physical and mental strength. However, because it's been his family's traditional occupation for decades, he couldn't help but do it to make a living. Regarding this night dive, he said that diving at night to cast and pull in nets is very strenuous and dangerous because one can't predict their own health condition. Furthermore, sudden waves and unexpected currents can sweep everything away. At that time, the fisherman's life would truly be threatened. The captain uses a flashlight to observe the sea area at night. With his extensive experience, the captain will know which areas have abundant fish and shrimp and where the currents are favorable for casting nets to catch them. After observing for a while, the captain identifies the fishing spot and instructs the fishermen to begin their work. The fishermen begin jumping into the sea and diving, using large nets to create traps for catching fish and shrimp. The seawater at night is very cold, so only those with a lot of experience and a body well adapted to the cold environment of the night sea can do this job. Using nets to trap shrimp and fish at night like this is truly a rare occupation in Vietnam. However, this is how the people of Ca Mau make a living, supporting themselves and their families. After finishing casting their nets, the fishermen boarded their boat and began moving to more distant areas to find new schools of fish and shrimp. Having located a suitable diving spot, the group of fishermen plunged into the sea. It was past midnight, very cold, and the wind was biting.
Sao hết một cái thùng bia chưa? Hết thùng bia chưa chưa?
Chưa đâu, thùng mấy tính.
There wasn't a single life vest, or anything else besides a small pole and some netting. I don't know how these fishermen train, but I found it incredibly risky. Just one sudden wave and everything could be swept away. The fishermen remaining on the boats must be skilled at delivering or throwing sections of the nets to the correct positions of those diving deep in the sea. This is quite complex and requires experience. Only then can the casting, stretching, releasing, and entangling of the nets be truly effective. Throughout the night, the fishermen remained focused on their work. Everyone had to hurry to complete the casting of the nets. Then, they would wait until dawn to pull in the nets and harvest the fish and shrimp. final sections of the nets were quickly pulled and lowered into the sea by the fishermen, completing the night's net casting operation. The natural currents of the sea will stretch these sections of netting, turning them into a dangerous trap for any kind of fish or shrimp. After casting their nets, the fishermen try to swim back to their boat in the seawater. The fishermen were delighted to see our camera. They said that although their work was difficult, it was still possible to do it if they loved it and practiced. This profession had been with them for decades and had become an indispensable part of their lives. Everyone showered with the fresh water stored on the boat before eating, drinking, and resting while waiting for dawn. Mr. Thuan has the physique of a bodybuilder. He says that it's because of his good health that he's been able to stick with this job for so many years. When asked about his future plans, he said he will continue scuba diving until he's old and frail. For Mr. Thuan, this profession is simply his love and passion. The fishermen began to gather inside the boat's cabin. This was where they rested after many hours of working through the night. The captain was frying fish, preparing a meal for the laborers at sea. This is our cramped survival space on the sea at night. Hopefully, the sea will be calm, so the boat won't be rocked. That would help us feel better. This was our late night meal. Out at sea, everyone worked hard, so they ate heartily, even though it was quite cold. These high-protein fried fish from the sea will provide the necessary energy for the fishermen. Everyone began to rest, waiting for dawn to begin harvesting the new catches. They hoped for unexpected surprises from the sea.